Hey everyone, InfiniteCaz here, and welcome back to another weapon guide. Today, I'll be talking all about the lightest charger in the game, the Bamboozler and all its respective kits. This weapon is certainly different to its fellow chargers, but it packs a surprising punch in battle if you know how to use it properly. I want to go through everything I understand regarding the Bamboo, and how you can utilise it to your advantage, to really get that upper hand in a match. With that being said, let's get right into it. To start things off, what makes the Bamboozler unique? It's a charger, but is significantly lighter on its feet and seems underwhelming damage-wise, at least at a first glance. This, however, is compensated by the weapon's insanely fast charge time, taking only a third of a second to do the whole 85 damage. Each shot ranges from 3.36 to 8.4% of your ink tank, depending on how long you've held the charge for, making it a pretty ink efficient charger, allowing 11 fully charged shots without any ink saver attached to that. The Bamboo charges at 40% speed while in midair and 20% when your ink tank is empty. And while the latter situation isn't ideal, you can get a shot off in enough time to defend yourself if you are in a pinch. Two mechanics this particular charger lacks compared to its peers is the ability to hold your charge in ink and pierce multiple opponents with a single shot, which may seem disappointing at first, but in reality makes little difference, as the Bamboo is so quick to begin with. It's a lightweight weapon, boosting your strafing speed, and with a fully charged shot, you still shuffle around at 0.6 units per frame. Pretty good compared to the other chargers. Your range is also decent, equivalent to the heavy Splatling and the Gootuber, so you outrange the vast majority of weapons, with the exceptions being the heavier chargers, the Jet Squelcher, Hydra, Explo and Bloblobber. Unlike other chargers, your range stays consistent, no matter how much you've charged your shot. So a super speedy tap shot, if you just missed out on a splat, is a solid strategy. One last thing to take note of, with the correct gear, you can deal 99.9 damage in a single shot, which is enough to one-shot people in a huge variety of situations. I'll touch on the gear needed to make this happen later in the guide, but I'll be talking about the Bamboo when it deals 99.9 damage, as it's by far the best way to play the weapon. The main weapon has three kits, the Mark 1, 2 and 3, all with their pros and cons. The most commonly used one is the Mark 1, with curling bombs and tenter missiles, a nice pairing for a midline style weapon, with mobility and a supportive option at your disposal. Curling bombs allow for a more discreet way of approaching places, and are also great in the opening parts of a game when you and your team are trying to approach mid as soon as possible. Tenter missiles, while nothing groundbreaking, help to provide concentrated pressure and are also a great way to increase your game awareness, as well as being a big plus when playing with teammates so you can call everyone out. The missiles take 200 points to charge, which isn't a huge deal, but I occasionally find myself having to farm for them when I really needed the extra pressure. The second kit, the Mark II, has Toxic Mist and Burst Bomb Launcher. I don't see it being used often, but it's certainly my favourite kit if I'm not taking things too seriously. I still think the Mark I is better, but this set has a few things going for it that makes it worth your time. Firstly, Toxic Mist is a good sub to train with, as its slowing effect allows you to trap and pick off opponents easier, allowing more time to aim and win a 1v1 fight. If you are struggling with fast-paced opponents and want to work on your aim, the Mark II is a good option. And since you don't have a bomb, it forces you to be more reliant on your main weapon in certain circumstances. Good for the purpose I stated. My favourite part of the Mark II is certainly its Burst Bomb Launcher, as it's a super fun special that takes a measly 160 points to charge, meaning you will rarely be without it. The burst bombs are great at painting and applying easy pressure over a specific area of the map, and their splash damage assists the main weapon well. The Bamboo can struggle to outpaint supportive weapons, and a special like this does come in handy. I would certainly recommend trying the Mark II out, if just for some fun. It's a really underrated kit in my opinion. On the other hand, the Mark III is so promising, but has one crucial flaw that makes it not worth running. Fizzy Bombs and Bubble Blower sound amazing on paper, and the combination on another weapon would be welcome, but sadly it's not suited in any way to the Bamboo. Fizzy Bombs are a great sub, as they paint and apply pressure through choke points, but it's the Bubble Blower and how gear dependent the special is that really holds this weapon back. Without any special power up or object shredder, the bubbles are tiny and difficult to pop. However, if you use special power up, your main weapon will be much weaker. So either way round, you will be sacrificing an integral part of your kit. If you want a good bubble weapon, I would choose a weapon like the Foil Squeezer or the Kenza Jr. You can use it if you really want Fizzy Bombs, but I don't think it's all that beneficial in most situations. So now we understand how the Bamboo works on a basic level. How should you go about playing it? Opposed to its longer ranged peers, the Bamboo is certainly a midliner, and serves a good purpose on anchorless comps. It has solid range, but contains the abilities to get aggressive when needs be. Your level of aggression dictates what role you will play in the match, and how confident you are in your aim often reflects this. New to the weapon, play more passively, and try to keep yourself out of danger when possible. Sure of your own abilities? Then you can place yourself in numerous sticky situations without any fear. If you can get that one shot, your kill time is unbelievably fast, and you can contest slayers from up close. However, you need to be aware of their positioning at all times, due to your average paint and less aggressive kits. Even doing 99.9 damage, you should realise that getting that one shot will not always happen, and only engage in fights that you know you will be able to get 2 hits off just to be cautious. Luckily, your range is a huge help in this. With the exception of backlines, you can stay out of your opponent's range by adjusting your position to correspond with their movements. By backing up to your team's side, you give an aggressor 2 options. Either take a huge risk by rushing into your territory, or just leave you alone. Don't be afraid to retreat when somebody comes full throttle towards you. It's always important to assess any situation before trying to get that pick. If someone tries to rush you head on, they can easily be picked off as their movement is so predictable. I would recommend firing a shot near someone to block off a possible escape route before aiming at them. Having turf in your colour is one of the best advantages you can have. Never underestimate how easily you can control the fight with it. Naturally, because of your range and role on the team, many people will not address you head on, but try to get a sneak attack off. Keeping a teammate near you when pushing up, or working around the objective is the best deterrent. For example, you and a Splattershot Jr. can be a brutal combo, with a ton of paint, yet longer range pressure and a load of damage to boot. While both of you have weaknesses, you cover for each other and can deal with anyone who tries to aggress much easier. The Bamboo does really well when playing alongside a competent teammate, as your flexibility can match just about any playstyle, as you will most likely be the longest ranged weapon on your team. Knowing where the opponents are and watching out for flanks or sneaky pushes is just as important as getting kills. Don't underestimate the pressure you exert, even if you are not that familiar with the Bamboo. Your opponents don't know that and will try to keep out of your range. The longer you can keep this up, the easier it is to lock down key parts of the map and push the opposing team back. Anyone knows playing against the Bamboo is a one-shot if you so much as graze your toe in enemy ink, and keeping as much paint down as possible is key to help keep the pressure up. Use your special to assist in this when possible, both for the paint and the pressure. When pushing up, you should be hanging back slightly, and keeping an eye out for anybody who could pull off a flank. Only push deep into the enemy base when you find an opening and are sure in your abilities. You want to be confident, but not overly so. Take a second to weigh up the risk and rewards before making a ballsy move. Sometimes being a distraction is all you need. but in other scenarios, you staying alive is much more beneficial. Learning to aim with the bamboo is easier than other charges in my opinion, just because you get more grace if you miss a shot. By the time a splat charger gets off one shot, you can double that, meaning if only a third of your shots land, it's not a bigger deal. Aiming advice-wise, it's similar to the other unscoped chargers. Keep a steady hand, be patient, and always warm up before going into a match. Try not to get overly frustrated at first. You will find aiming tricky to start off with, but instead, put your effort into painting and supporting your teammates in any way that you can. Just because you have more leeway, doesn't mean you shouldn't learn how to consistently aim. You will often find yourself in situations where you can't miss a shot, and with a lot of time and patience, you will gradually win more and more of these encounters. Remember how much assistance your sub-weapon can provide, especially if you're using the Mark 1 or 3. The damage they deal can get that one shot. Although the bamboo is a charger, remember that it's a very versatile weapon, and overall, I advise playing around and finding your playstyle. Whether that's more aggressive or defensive, always play it the style that maximises your effectiveness. As long as you are patient and stick with the bamboo, you will see results. The high skill floor is worth it, I promise. In splat zones, the Bamboozler is a decent choice, but your role will be more focused on getting picks and applying pressure around the objective. You shouldn't push up into the enemy base, as it gives the enemy team more opportunities to pick you off. Staying in zone keeps up the pressure when you are being contested, and if you can find a good vantage point, calling out any stragglers is always a welcome addition. If you are to push up, I would always find someone to stick with, and wait for them to come into your range. Never leave the zone unprotected, and while it may seem enticing to push right up and get splat after splat, team play is key here, especially in a mode where longer range charges are more prevalent. Getting caught against an opponent who has the range advantage is deadly, and the same goes when pushing into the zone. Unless it's a last resort, never push in alone, as your paint is not good enough to contest the zone. Instead, focus on getting picks on the slayers in the zone that are engaged with your teammates, then push into mid when the coast is more or less clear. Playing zones is about knowing when to be aggressive and when to hold the line, and even though the bamboo isn't my first pick for the mode, it still performs well. In tower control, the bamboo does a good job at pushing the objective and defending it from the pressure you exert. The tower is an easy target, and if you have the range advantage, getting a pick or even painting around the objective does a lot. And while riding the tower, you have a good chance to get picks on anyone defending. If using the Mark 1, missiles are great for targeting the tower, and with good coordination, you can help hold the backline while your more aggressive opponents push into enemy territory. I would advise keeping an eye out for any flankers or surprise attacks, as you can easily pick people off from around the tower. However, remember that aggression in tower control is still rewarded when done correctly. Just don't get too overzealous. Similar to tower control, aggression is rewarded in Rainmaker, but in moderation. You can quickly deal with the Rainmaker, but you are easily outpainted, so don't blindly rush in unless it's absolutely necessary. You do well carrying the Rainmaker, and unless you have someone who is dedicated to pushing the objective, or you are nowhere near the Rainmaker, I would advise picking it up when you can, and if not, sticking close to whoever is carrying it. Not to repeat myself again, but your playstyle is similar to tower control, but you will probably need to change how you approach the game on a whim, just due to the fast-paced playstyle of Rainmaker. Clan Blitz is certainly the mode I use the bamboo the most in. As somebody who plays the normal charges more often, I feel like they are not as suited to the nature of clams compared to the bamboo and its increased mobility. Focusing on collecting clams and defending the objective when important are your main priorities, especially in a team where your other friends may be caught up on getting picks and they need solid support when pushing up to the basket. Always coordinate your special when you need it most. Examples being making pushes and defending several power clams. In a game mode so heavily reliant on coordination, don't try to go off and do your own thing. You will fare much better as a support player, getting picks when you need to, but not going out of your way to top frag. Now let's talk about the gear you should use when playing the Bamboozler. There isn't much to say here, as every bamboo set looks so similar. To hit 99.9 damage, you need to run 3 mains and 5 subs of main power up, although 3 mains and 4 subs grants you 99.6 damage, which may be enough for some people, but I like to get the maximum damage possible. As you only have 4 or 5 sub slots through, there is little you can do to customise it to your liking. I run a Subber Bomb Defense Up DX, a Subber Quick Super Jump, as well as Special Saver and Ink Resistance, although if you want a Subber 2 of Mobility, you can choose that as well. In Enemy Ink, you take 0.3 hit points per frame with no abilities, but using 1 sub brings that down to 0.2, so using less MPU makes you more reliant on your enemies being stuck on your ink for longer periods of time. The Mark 1 and 2 both have kits that in no way rely on gear, so main power up is the way to go. The Mark 3 has more varied kit, and this is a higher risk way to play the bamboo. And I would recommend all newcomers stick with main power up sets while you are still getting to grips with the weapon, and in more serious situations. Although there is no real right and wrong when it comes to gear, you should use what makes you play it your best, but don't limit yourself to a single set. I encourage everyone to do some experimentation to find what works. So what makes the Bamboozler so great? It's a versatile midline that can be as aggressive as you want, but still has the capabilities to support your team to a great extent. It's a tough weapon to pick up, but getting good with it makes you an unstoppable force in battle. A super quick kill and enough range to pick off the vast majority of the game's arsenal makes the bamboo a worthwhile weapon to pick up if it seems to be your cup of tea. So that's all for now, and thank you so much for watching until the end. I hope you learnt something about the bamboo and its playstyle. So what's your opinion on the bamboo? I would love to hear your thoughts down below. Please like and subscribe as it really helps me out, and with that being said, I will see you all next time. Bye!